Here at CSL, we have 7 core values that guide our practice, that guide everything we do. We like to focus on a different core value every single week. Those core values are love, healing, oneness, abundance, spiritual growth, service, and diversity. For this week, we're focusing on spiritual growth. So it's been said that our spiritual growth and evolution is automatic right up into the point of self-awareness. And given that we're all self-aware to one degree or another, that means that it's our wheelhouse from this point forward. But what really is spiritual growth, right? Given there's no separation between the physical and the spiritual growth looks like refraining from yelling at the driver that cut you off at the last minute. Spiritual growth looks like acknowledging the resistance that you've got to exercising, and rather than blaming or shaming yourself, you just let it be what it is, burn itself out, and go exercise anyway. Spiritual growth is saying, you know, in this situation a year ago, I'd have completely lost it, but today I only lost it 75%, so I'm doing pretty good, right? And it's acknowledging that growth, no matter how big or how small, that we experience every day, that provides the fuel to continue to drive our spiritual growth. And given that what we're growing into is the full-orbed realization of ourselves as the unlimited presence of love in the universe, we're going to need a lot of fuel. So whether it's our growth or somebody else's growth, big or small, honor it, recognize it, celebrate it, grab that fuel, and as we go, no matter how treacherous the road or how congested the traffic, let's make sure we look around at the scenery and enjoy this life, because we're going to be growing forever, and I'm thrilled to be on that journey with you guys. Have a great Sunday.
January 15, 1929, a man was born that would challenge us to be more, to show that part of our character that is true and just. And his rally call went out to a nation as well. He called on our country to live up to our highest ideals. And as is the case with many teachers and healers who hold the vision of our greatness inside, that lives inside of us, that comes to the earth to tell us about that greatness, Dr. King was assassinated when he was just 39 years old. You see, we have to kill the messenger quickly because we don't like being challenged. We don't like being told that we're not living up to our potential. We don't like hearing that we can be more. But this man was unique. Like all great visionaries, he held a special talent that very few of us possess. Visionaries are able to time travel, you know. They're able to step into our future, look around, and come back to the present moment and tell us what they see. Dr. King saw all of us living in a more just America, and he returned to the present time to tell us about it. That's why the title of his speech was, "I Have a Dream that women and men of all colors could live in peace and harmony in this country." And perhaps more importantly and more extraordinary about this man, he used the power of his popularity in a noble way. He did not incite a race riot, although he certainly could have. He did not promote the overthrow of our government, and he did not fuel the fire of anger in his people over the horrible injustices they were forced to endure. He could have led an angry mob of millions of black men and women to the Capitol demanding justice, but he didn't. Instead, he said, "I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear." And that's why we had to kill him. Because it's just too hard to love. It's much easier to hate. It's too hard to try and understand those whom we disagree with. It's easier to discount and dismiss them. It's way too hard to listen to the voice of discontent in a nation. It's easier to just arrest them all. Listen to me, this is important. Everything people do, everything they say, and every action they take is either an act of love or an ask for love. Those are the only two true motivations fear, and love. And we have no problem with the understanding the acts of love. Our hearts are always touched when we hear the story of that young boy who gave up his allowance, right? And he raised money for underprivileged children so that their parents could buy them laptops so they could study at home. And it tugs at our heartstrings to see the stories on the news of the people who are making the personal protective gear for nurses and doctors and bringing them to the hospitals free of charge. We love the acts of love. We are deeply moved by them. It's the asks for love, the fear-based actions that people take that we have trouble with. We don't understand them and we don't respond to them well. In fact, we get very self-righteous and very judgmental. So we want to put them all down and make them all bad and wrong. You know, maybe we can understand a child who's acting out, whose grades suddenly go down, or he gets in a fight with another kid. Maybe if our perspective is high enough, we can see the situation for what it really is, a need for attention, and ask for love, a soul that's saying, you're not seeing me, you're not hearing me, you're not loving me enough. It's easy to see that when a child acts out, but we don't do well with adults when they act out. But I'm telling you, the motivation is the same. Let me ask you something. What do you do when you don't feel heard? What do you do when the people around you start to treat you like you're invisible? How do you feel? How do you feel when you're dismissed and ignored and not loved? Makes you pretty mad. So know this. Whenever and wherever there is an uprising of people anywhere in the world, it is an ask for love. It is a desperate need to be seen and heard. And now that you know that, maybe you can resist. Maybe you can resist the desire to make them all bad and wrong. Maybe you won't be so quick to just dismiss them. In my spiritual fitness class on Tuesday nights, I was telling everybody the story of my friend Adrian. Years ago, when he was a young man trying to make his way into the world and discover who he was and what his path was, he decided to go on vacation in San Francisco. And while he's there sightseeing, he's walking through Chinatown, and he sees this sign on the outside of a store window, and the sign says, "Psychic readings, $10. So he figures, what the hell, I got $10, I'll go check it out. I'm on vacation, what do I have to lose? It's just $10. So he goes inside, and from behind a curtain comes out this little old Chinese woman, just the kind of character you would expect to see in a movie about Chinatown. And she sits down across the table from him, and she reaches for his hand to hold him, and she says to him, "Oh, you are a very spiritual man. You have a very big future, lots of love and money." And he says, "Oh my God, how did you know that? You're right, I am kind of spiritual." And then she says, "But something is blocking you. Your aura is very dark around you, and it must be cleaned." And he said, "Oh my God, you're right. Sometimes I do feel like there's a dark cloud hanging over me." Well, what I forgot to tell you is that my friend Adrian is rather gullible. So he's apt to believe just about anything anybody says to him. So the psychic lady says, "Look, I can help you with this. I will wash your aura, and then it will all be clean, and love and money will just flow to you right away." But my friend Adrian had never even been to a Chinese laundry, much less a Chinese aura washer. So he had no idea what to think. So he asked her, "Okay, well, how much will that be?" And she said, $2,000. And he said, "Well, let me think about that." So he goes back to his hotel that night, and he calls me up, and he says, "What do you think?" And I've told you the story. This is what happened. And I said, "I'll tell you what, Adrian, I'll wash your aura for $1,500. You say 500? Now, here's the thing. I think the old Chinese woman really was psychic because she knows something about us that we don't know. You know what she knows? She knows how anxious we all are to believe something is wrong with us, that something isn't quite right or not good enough. She knows that you can pull people in by telling them your good is just on the horizon, but you don't have quite what it takes to get to it. You see, through years of miseducation on this planet and from our culture, you have been programmed as well, like my friend Adrian, to believe that you're not good enough, that something is blocking your good. And it's this programming that is instilled inside your DNA that becomes part of who you are, that leaves you searching outside yourself for answers, looking out there for validation, needing people to like you and love you. And this sense of low self-value is so deeply ingrained in us that we are loath to hear anybody tell us differently. That's why we don't believe them. We don't believe them when the great messengers come along and say, "You've seen what I do? Nothing compared to what you're gonna do." We don't believe them when they say, "You are beloved by your Creator. You are an angel cloaked in human form." We don't believe it when Dr. King says, "You can do better. You can be better as a people, as a nation." And so we kill them, because we can't accept the truth. We can't believe there's anything that holy and noble inside of us. We can't let ourselves be loved that much. And so we live in the world, billions of us, walking around with this low estimation of worth. And instead of rallying around those leaders that call out the very best in us, we find ourselves hearing the call of those who bring out the worst in us. And instead of love, we find our hearts filled with fear and anger and hatred. Dr. King warned us about this trap. He said, "Let no man pull you so low as to hate him." You see, when you hate someone, you are trapped in a toxic relationship with them. You are constantly outraged by their behavior and personally victimized by every action they take, whether it's about you or not. Hate is the magnet that pulls you closer in to the very thing that hurts you. Like a June bug that's drawn to the light that blinds it, you can't get away. You're stuck. Very uplifting talk. Loving the mood in the room. Filled with joy and love. Tell me there's a way out of this hell, please. Please tell me there's a way out. Good news, there just happens to be. And it comes from our book of the month, Spiritual Fitness, that beautiful woman who wrote this. She said, "The most important thing for you to know is that people treat you the way you allow them to. As you develop your self-worth, you will begin to purge out anything and anyone negative surrounding you." Did you hear that? When you decide you're worth it, you will stop letting other people treat you poorly, and you will break out of toxic relationships. So once again, my friends, the way out is the way in. The way out of a toxic relationship is to discover what's inside here, self-love. It is to love yourself enough that it becomes unthinkable and unimaginable to let somebody else treat you poorly. I don't know whether you know this or not, but you are like an energy radar. And if you're a sensitive person, you can easily pick up on the energies of the people around you. And if those energies are negative before you know it, you won't be feeling very good. You might not be able to explain why, but you'll start feeling sad or helpless or hopeless or depressed. Thankfully, it works just the opposite way as well. If the energies of the people around you are positive and life-affirming, you'll be affected in a positive way. You'll feel hopeful and energetic and happy. So the soul detox begins by becoming conscious and awake of which people and which circumstances and which places are draining your positive energy, and then making a conscious choice to eliminate them from your life. Purge them from your life, she says. Like two ends of a magnet that attracts and also repels, your consciousness is the invisible field around you that draws all of these people to you, both positive and negative. To put it simply, honest people attract other honest people. Loving people attract other loving people. Happy, joyful people attract other happy, joyful people, so they can do happy, joyful things together. So it's all an inside job, you see. You can't change what you attract out there until you change how you think in here. And if you've ever been in one of these toxic relationships that ends, but then you replace that person who you were in a toxic relationship with someone else that's just like them, you know, if you don't do the work on your own sense of self-worth, you will keep repeating this negative pattern. And that's because in the universe, like attracts like. You can only attract to you who you are. Now, of course, you know that's true. You know that's the basic fundamentals of spiritual law and how it works. But what do you do if you've been in one of these toxic relationships so long that you really believe the abuser? That you really believe what they're telling you, that you're not good enough? For you, self-love seems about as far away as the planet Mars. What do you do when you've been beaten down so low that it's hard to even get up in the morning? For you, life isn't about loving yourself each day. It's just about surviving and getting through that day. And if that's you, if that's where you are at right now, hear me now. You have more strength than you know. You have forgotten just how strong you are. Like a muscle that you haven't used in a long time, it has atrophied. But let me tell you something, brother, sister, when you decide to make your move, when you decide to get the hell out of there, I promise you all hell will break loose. And the power that you haven't used in maybe years will rise up within you and give you the strength to move forward and do the positive, right, affirming thing. And on that day when you make your exit, you will know what Dr. King meant when he said, free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. And so ends the lesson. You know, there's so much beauty and love in our hearts. There's so much joy waiting to be let out. There's so much power within us that we haven't used. Let's take some time together, in our time together, to go within, to access that truth, that love, that power, that joy.
I breathe out, I breathe in, I am still, I go within. When I quiet my mind, in the stillness I find. Spirit meets me there, Spirit meets me there.
For those who have struggled so much in life, for those women and men who've been hurt by others, for those when the days have been so dark you can't remember the light, let me serve as your reminder. A greater day is here. It's not coming in the future. It's not tomorrow. It's right now. Because today is the day you are conscious and aware of your truth and your power. And you are starting to sense there's something in you rising up that is good and noble and just, something that can change the world and change your life. You're not alone. You're not without power or resources. You have at your beckoning call the creative power that makes a universe and the kind of love that knows no condition. You are enveloped and embraced by the one true lover of life, the creator of all. Let's be still for a minute and take that in. That light that started the universe is shining brightly now. It leads and guides us on the path to all that is good. We are drawn to it like a magnet to steel, drawn to love and to joy and to peace, the things that are true of ourselves and our souls. We are losing interest very quickly in that which we have hated, in that which has angered us, in that which has stolen our heart. We return made whole again, well again. And so it is.
I breathe out, I breathe in, I am still, I go within. When I quiet my mind, in the stillness I find. Spirit meets me there,
We close our service as we do every week with this little affirmation card and prayer. It may not seem like very much. It may seem just like a few words on a little card, but the truth is it creates a consciousness that changes your life. Let's say it together. I am letting go of toxic thoughts, beliefs, and people. My soul is free. In a universe that is expanding all the good that it creates, it doesn't make sense to hold on to anything that's not good. In a love that is forever overflowing and willing to give itself to every heart it creates, it doesn't make sense to spend any time hating anything or anybody. So today, right now, I let go. I stop my interest. I have no further conversations about that which I hate. I am drawn to love. I am drawn to goodness. I am drawn to power. And so in this moment, I have pushed the reset button in my mind and in my heart. Hate is too much to endure. This time, I'm just going to stick with love. And so it is. Thank you for being here. We'll see you again next week here at CSL and on Facebook Live at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a good week.
Thank you for watching, and thanks for supporting CSL. If you'd like to know more about us, check us out on our website or social media. Blessings.